circles.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat?
No, she heard your voice.
All right, so we're going to be writing out equations of ellipses. So an ellipse is the set of all points in a plane such that the sum of the distances from two fixed points is constant. Shh, quiet now. Are you good? Miles. So every ellipse has two axes of symmetry. Okay, it has a major axis and a minor axis. Okay, so your major axis, is the longer axis of symmetry. So in this horizontal ellipse, your major axis is right here. And in your vertical ellipse, your major axis is right here. Okay, so if it's a horizontal ellipse, your major axis is horizontal. If it's a vertical ellipse, your major axis is vertical. You also have a minor axis. Okay, the minor axis is the smaller one. Okay, so in your horizontal ellipse, it is the vertical axis, and in your vertical ellipse, it is the horizontal axis. Okay, so the axes are perpendicular at the center of the ellipse. Okay, so here I have the center point. They should be perpendicular at that point. The foci of an ellipse always lie on the major axis. So here, quiet and pay attention. Here are your foci points. Get off your phones. Did I even look at you?
Yeah, you said you should get off your phone.
No. Get off your phones.
Class true, we have a chemistry lab today.
I don't care, you're in math class. Get off your phones and pay attention. Okay, the endpoints of the major axis are the vertices of the ellipse, and the endpoints of the minor axis are the covertices of the ellipse. Okay, there are several important relationships among many parts of an ellipse. Okay, so first, your major axis is 2a units long. Okay, your major axis is 2a units long. You will need to be able to find a. Okay. The values of a, b, and c are related by the equation c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. Okay, you will need to be able to find C as well so that you can find your focus points. Okay, and the distance from the focus to either co-vertex is a unit. Okay, the sum of the distances from the foci to any point on the ellipse, or the constant sum, must be greater than the distance between the foci. So you will need to know what the major axis is. Okay, it's equal to 2a. The minor axis is equal to 2b. Okay, you will need to have to find a and b in order to write out an equation of an ellipse. Okay, so we have two different standard forms. So I have this chart here again. Two different standard forms. We have x minus h squared over a squared, h squared over a squared, plus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1. Okay, that's a horizontal ellipse. And we have y minus k squared over a squared plus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. So in both cases, your equation for an ellipse should always equal 1. Okay, the equation for an ellipse should always equal 1. Now, in these two equations, your a value is always the larger number. Okay? So a is the larger number. And b is the smaller number. Okay, so a has to be the greater number, b has to be the smaller number for your denominators there. You're also given the equations you need to find your foci points and your vertices. So to find vertices, you will need h and k. To find co-vertices, you will need k and b. Okay, and your center is still at hk, just like it was before with our circles. Okay, so your center is still at hk. So we are going to go through and write some equations of ellipses. Unnecessary. Yeah.
The two equations, like in standard form, they look almost the same.
Yes, they look almost the same. So your a squared value has to be your greater value in the denominator. So if your greater value is under y minus k squared, it's vertical. If your greater value is under x minus h squared, it's horizontal. So that's what differs there. That's why I wanted you to write out which one was larger, because that'll help you tell the difference between the two. Yeah.
Is it mixed?
No.
Mixed grade.
Great one.
Grade level.
Our grade level is big.
Okay. So, example 1, we want to write an equation for the ellipse that's graphed at the right. Okay, so first thing I do is decide if this is a vertical ellipse or a horizontal. Okay, so this ellipse here, your axis that's the longest, okay, is vertical. That means this is a vertical ellipse. Okay, so since it is a vertical ellipse, that means you're in y minus k squared over a squared plus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. So this is the equation that I need to write out. So I need to find what the center point is at hk. I need to find what a is, and I need to find what b is. Okay, so step 1 here.
Is that a plus sign or a division?
Is to
That's a plus?
where?
Right there. Yeah.
Plus. So step 1 is to find the center. So since I'm given a graph, it's pretty easy to find the center point. Okay, that center point has to be where your two axes intersect. Okay, at this point, that is 0, 0. Okay, so that is your h and k value. Okay, my next step is to find a. So step 2, we want to find a. So to find a, we're going to use the major axis. Okay, this is your major axis right here. So using the major axis, we want to know how long that is. Okay, so how many units is that major axis? it's 10 units long. Okay, the major axis is 10 units long. Now on the front, I said what the major axis was equal to. The major axis is equal to 2a. Okay, so I would have 10 is equal to 2a. So to get a, I would just divide by 2. So a is 5. So again, I'm just using major axis that I highlighted pink over here. So now I know what A is. Next I need to find B. Okay, so we want to find B. So to find B, we're going to use the minor axis. Okay, the minor axis is the shorter axis that goes through the center point. Okay, so that's this one right here. No.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, the minor axis is 6 units long. Okay, minor axis is 6 units long, and the minor axis is equal to 2b. So we will divide by 2 to get b is equal to 3. So now in my equation, if I look back up at the top here, I have h and k from the center. I have a from the major axis, and I have b from the minor axis. So my last step is just to write out the equation of this ellipse. So step 4 is to write the equation. So we just need to plug in our values then. So we have y minus our k value is 0, that quantity squared, over our a value is 5 squared, plus x minus the h value is 0, that quantity squared, over our b value is 3 squared, and that has to equal 1. Okay, and if I ever have a y minus 0 or x minus 0 quantity squared, I can just change that to y squared. Over 5 squared is 25, plus x squared over 9 is equal to 1.
We don't get it wrong if we don't do that.
I need you to square 5 and 3. If you leave it as a quantity squared like this, that's fine, but you do need to square 5 and you do need to square 3. Okay, questions on the first one? So find center, find A, find B, then write your equation. Okay, we're going to do one more. So we're going to write the equation of the ellipse that's graphed at the right here. This time, my major axis, or the longest segment through the middle there, is horizontal. Okay, so since that major axis is horizontal, that makes this a horizontal ellipse. Okay, since it's a horizontal ellipse, I'm going to write my equation out as x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1. Okay, so next I just want to go through my steps. So my first step is to find the center. Okay, so my center point is where your two axes meet, so your major axis and your minor axis. Okay, those meet at 0, 0. And that's at H and K. So we now have H and K. Next step is to find A. So to find A, we need to use this major axis. So we need to see how long that major axis is. Well, if I'm going from 0, 0 to 9, 0, this length here is 9, right? And then going to -9 to that other vertice, that length is 9. So together, that's 18. Okay, so here our major axis is 18. So we would take 18 is equal to 2A. So A will equal 9. Okay, step 3. We want to find B. So using the minor axis, okay, this is your minor axis here. Each unit is going up by 2, not 1. Okay, so I have 2, 4, 6, 8 as the length of my minor axis.
So it's 8 divided by 2 is 4.
So I'm going to take our minor axis and set it equal to 2B.
How did you get the last number for it? It's a
Can you wait until I'm done, please? I will tell you eventually. Okay. Divide by 2, I get B is equal to 4. So last step here is to write out the equation of that line, or of the ellipse. So plugging it into our form up here, we have x minus our h value is 0 squared over a squared, so 9 squared, plus y minus k is 0, that quantity squared, over b squared is equal to 1. Yes.
And then you can just simplify that.
Okay, so then I'm just going to end up with x squared over 81 plus y squared over 16 is equal to 1. Now, before I give you your assignment, I do want to just show you how you can find your foci points really quick. Okay, so not part of the problem. I am just going to use examples 2's coordinates, but I want you to find foci points. Okay, so to find these foci points, because you will have to do that in your assignment, okay, finding foci points, you have to use c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. Shh. Guys, you have to do this in your assignment. You have to write this down in your notes. Shh. Okay, so to find your foci points, you have to use this equation here because you need to use c to find those. Okay, so up here, you have your a and b values. Okay, it's 9 and 4. So to find c, we just plug those in. So I would have c squared is equal to a squared, so a is 9, minus b squared, that's 4. So I have c squared is equal to 81 minus 16. So c squared is equal to 65. And then you just take the square root of both sides. So c is about 8.1. Okay, now on the front, okay, so if you look at the front of your note sheet, we were just working with a horizontal ellipse. Okay, so these are horizontal values. To find your foci point, you're going to take h plus or minus c and then k. So that's the one I want to use here. So we have h plus or minus c and then k. Don't throw things. So our h value is 0. And then we have plus or minus the c value we just found is 8.1. And then our k value is 0. Shh. So if I take 0 plus 8.1, I end up with 8.1, 0 as one of my foci points. And I have 0 minus 8.1, so negative 8.1, 0 as my second. Okay, so you will have to find your foci points on one of the problems in your assignment. I just wanted to show you how to do that in your notes as well. Okay, so you have to go back to that front side. Look under what type of ellipse you're given, if it's vertical or horizontal. Just look down, look for foci in that row, and then use that equation for that point. Okay, questions?